Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural event in the Night Light Poetry Reading Series. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm delighted to be here with you celebrating a few different milestones and pieces of exciting news all at once. This is our very first reading under the new Nightlight moniker, although some of you may remember the performance anxiety readings that I had the great privilege of helping to organize and host with my friend Kristen Gart. Nightlight is excited to take up performance anxiety's mantle of featuring poets new and established in a monthly reading and maybe also a discussion eventually kind of series that we're going to host virtually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern. Fingers crossed. At each of our events, we plan to feature a group of invited readers to share a selection of their work with us. Having slots for readers every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in reading. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you, and I want to make sure I get our new correct contact information right, so forgive my slowness here. We're on Twitter now at Nightlight Poems, NIGHTLIGHTPOEMS. We're also on Instagram at night_light_poems_, because we were less quick on the draw in Instagram world. You can also just get in touch with me directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky on both Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me at poetrybooksontape, all one word, at gmail.com. This month, so hopefully it will be a series, but this month in particular is very exciting because we are celebrating an Ornithopter and Friends launch extravaganza, celebrating the release of 3 new titles from Ornithopter Press in 2023, while also showcasing the work of some dear friends of the press who we're so thrilled could join us this evening to read. It's been my honor, personally, to publish 2 books with Ornithopter, Light Up Swan in 2021, for which we held the first of these launch readings when we were Performance Anxiety, and now Reclaimed Water, which I happen to have just here, which came out on August 1st of this year, and which I'm really excited to read a little bit from later this evening. We also have with us in the reading lineup tonight Erin Malone, whose National Poetry Series finalist collection Site of Disappearance is due out from Ornithopter on October 1st. Shout out to Erin, and thank you for your patience with the Skype snafu that's not giving you a proper name, but we're going to roll with it. And last but not least, although she wasn't able to join us this evening because of travel conflict, Lainey Brown's book, Intaglio Daughters, will be out a fortnight and a day from today on September 1st, and pre-orders are already open on Ornithopter's website. I'm also really excited that Joe and myself and Lainey will be reading in New York at Unnameable Books in just a day after Lainey's book comes out. So all kinds of super exciting stuff going on in the Ornithopter universe, and we're so glad that you are here to be part of plenty of it tonight. However, I do also want to say that none of this Ornithopter-related business would be possible at all without the tireless work of Ornithopter Press's founder and editor, Mark Harris, who it brings me great joy to introduce as our very first reader of the evening. Mark Harris is a writer, editor, and book designer. His poems have appeared or are forthcoming in the Hopkins Review, Ocean State Review, Shearsman, The Elephants, Noon, an anthology of short poems from Isobar, which is an amazing book, Haiku in English, The First 100 Years from W.W. Norton, and elsewhere. He started Ornithopter Press in 2014, and Mark, we are very glad you did. Thank you for being here and for kicking off the series tonight. I'm excited to hear what you're going to share.
Thanks, Tom. I often think I'm the luckiest person in the world because I get to work with so many great writers, and both as a publisher and as a poet. And this is like worlds colliding, It's fabulous. I'm going to read briefly from some brief poems because mostly I write brief poems. I'll start with some somewhat longer ones for me. They're not long. Oh, and I've shared a document in the chat section. I don't know if everybody can see the chat section, but it's on the right side if you activate it, and there's you can click on a link to. I made it public to everybody who clicks on the link, the poems that I'm going to be reading from, just for those who might have trouble following along. Lake. But before and after wave, water thought, fracked, the light changes. To construct what we need, what is, silt unto sun, sediment, bud cloud, the seam dividing, hemlock, shade the far shore. Entrance to the dove holes. This is after this a wonderful artist named Joseph Wright of Derby. I suppose you probably say Derby, and it's a drawing that I used to work at a museum, and I would often handle this drawing and think about it, and so this poem came out of that. The dove holes are a sort of a place where people would go exploring and spelunking and that sort of thing. Entrance to the dove holes. Erosions we follow down limestone, pale as erasure, wind-blown contour, bone laid bare. To the open oval the eye knows, the way through. Hollows wept dry, gray washes of looped space, winding toward a keyhole of light. The plumb line unspools, a soft call echoes. Metasequoia. From a room full of things. Oh, sorry, I'll start again. I got distracted by an emoji, I think. Metasequoia. From a room full of things on view, the view. Cone of quiet, leaf light and shadow. Dawn. That's a specimen tree. Draw a line tangent to the broadest branch. There. You and I collapse. Glass divides air. Bud, scar, bract, mouth, eye. Decohere. We collect ourselves. Emojis are cool, by the way. I just get easily distracted. I'm very easily distracted. Fragment, lower torso. This is another object that I used to work with. When I worked in the museum, I would actually handle the objects, which was a wonderful thing. You know, this is a marble fragment of basically just the lower abdominal area of a figure that was probably Dionysus. And if it wasn't Dionysus, it certainly looked like Dionysus. Although the, of course, Dionysus is an androgynous figure, and this particular fragment was particularly androgynous. You know, what was left. Fragment, lower torso. That fate would save the part least easily claimed after the war. What's left but desire, hard as marble and smooth as a contour wandering hip and abdomen. Linea alba, the external oblique, made soft by sleek excess, supple and wine-fed, quickening in answer to a shift of weight along an unseen axis. We find ourselves in a Colosseum all of a sudden. So this next poem is called Division. My neighbor's car is gone again. In the lot behind our homes, his son asks shyly if I can help them split a geode. And then the next few poems I'm going to read are, they're kind of haiku-like poems. You could call them haiku if you like, but I think of them as haiku-like poems. They don't have titles. Can you hear the sea inside? She whispers. Lavender, through the wall, softly waves or lovers. Only a drawing of a labyrinth. Only the moon's pull. Thanks all.
That was so beautiful, Mark. Thank you for being the most incredible lead-off batter we could have asked for, and for all you do for Ornithopter, and for making me think of that Beach Boys song Lavender with one of those haiku-like poems. That, again, was Mark Harris, who we were extremely excited to have here, both in his capacity as reader and poet extraordinaire, but also in his capacity as editor and founder of Ornithopter Press. So you can find Mark on Twitter and Instagram. So let me be careful. Instagram and Threads at Ornithopter Press, ORNITHOPTERPRESS. And you can find Ornithopter on Twitter at Ornithopter Poem. Ornithopter Press books, again, are coming out this year, but also keep an eye out for Mark's many publications and awesome things that are going on, because we are just, very, very happy that these worlds have collided in just this way. And Mark, you've been instrumental in that. So thank you for reading and for all you do for Ornithopter authors.
Thanks
have
so
been
much.
saying, of course, yeah, and I have been saying the word Ornithopter a lot, but I also want to say that we are welcoming a few friends of the press here tonight too, who are really, really excited to be here. People who, whose poems I've admired for a very, very long time, and who I'm very, very happy to consider my friends in Poetrylandia. And the first of those who I'm excited to introduce as our next reader is Joe Ianni. Joe Ianni is an artist who works with poetry. He is here. Only God knows what he will read, and he's going to do it just now. Break a leg, Joe.
Thank you, Tom. It's so funny. I've been at work all day. Haven't had much time to prepare for this, but I'm so glad to be here. And I said the exact same thing to my partner. Only God knows what I'll read tonight. So with that said, I'm super grateful to be here in the timbre of I hate my job. I guess I want to say I love my coworkers, and like to dedicate the reading to those launching their books, but also to my coworkers who make my job bearable. With that said, I'm going to try to read you some poems. These are some ones that I've been working on. Most of what I'll be sharing with you is unpublished, fragmentary things. I'll just kind of pause between them. Most of them don't have titles. Faithful pessimist, in your loud underground, listening after the tunnels, bright, bright light, waiting. Lick dry lips, lick dry lips, lick lips dry, lips lick lips. Again today, twice today, I thought I saw you, thinking how I held you, how I couldn't. You have a baby now, a beautiful round baby, and that makes me happy. Please bloom insane and never come here again. Half a moon, the sun coming down like it's used to, turning the hydrangeas blue, and the deer licking dew. Maybe that's enough. Eaten alive by 1,000 tiny vampires. Rattle and shake, in surprising place, like finding a snake in your walls made home, then those shivering excitations when you lean over and happily tell the ghost, oh, a new roommate. Hope is a terrorist, fruit of the clock, amputee, where the blue ends, music stops playing, mean, scared, singing itch. Fleshy, the shadow's tendrils, onyx, wobbles, dark blue cloud formations that don't look empty, like the future, or fingers tucked in, red, draped with abides. of all your dreams, dreamers, the blue melodies wrapped away by the fingers of the world. Now I must live this way instead. If I took a spoonful, where would I put the sadness? My hand slips out from underneath, trying at an ancient forgotten word, quivering and hesitantly. Has been a joy to loose this vibrant cry. I would open my eyes so wide beyond the void of yearning to be my throat. Another being, an image observed in a poem, in the life that breathes in, sojourn in the world beneath the alive and survivors of them. Remember me like nature, a sense of a vibrating soul, exact in fault and flaw and defect. Lucky gotten minutes seem to spin weirdly, backward, writing hokey hoku wrongly 1 minute till I'm pushed into the trash bins, jackass, braying, fuzzy song. I'm all about my swinging head, my oath, my swearing, my slurry, swerve. I'm just going to read a few more from a recent thing that I'm working on. It's a series I'm tentatively calling Bachelor Party. And here it goes. Raining beer cans, frisbee, plans and hangovers, bailing on houses, millions of dollars. Where is the horn? Change the music. It's too loud. Magazines, board games, shirtless, cinder blocks, microphones, the unhealthy sport. Rows of corn, spitting sunflower seeds, ping pong all day. Flags for, flags against, glorified, towels, the best vowels, confetti, a ceiling of cobwebs, exposed nails, gold and silver stars. Wet shoes, crushed cans, one drink then the next, and the rain gave out. Crickets chirping. You have to have two kinds of friends, those to laugh with and those to laugh at. And that's going to be it for me, folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. The titleless Keith Jarrett, it's just going, it's going, it's going, it's going, and it's never gone, but it was pretty cool to hear. That was Joe Ianni, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at WTF is a poet. Joe's work that you've just heard, some of it might find its way into the world, and if and when it does, I will be very excited to hold it in my hands. And I'm really excited also to be reading with Joe in just a couple weeks' time in New York, where I believe there will be copies of Joe's chapbook, Inside, 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 which is an amazing piece of work. So if you are close to New York and you want to hold some of those poems in your hands, you might be able to pretty soon. Wow. All right. I'm like tingly because I haven't done this in a couple months and I forget how just like electric this can feel. So we are getting back on the Ornithopter train, and I am very excited to introduce our next reader as someone who's also got a book coming out with Ornithopter very, very soon. That is Erin Malone. And Erin Malone is the author of two full-length collections, Site of Disappearance, finalist for the National Poetry Series, and Hover, as well as a chapbook, What Sound Does It Make? She works as a bookseller and lives on Bainbridge Island in Washington State. Erin, thank you so much for connecting through the information superhighway to join us here. We're really glad that you're here. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I wish I were closer to New York, really. I'm on the other side of the country here. It's not even dinner time. But Thank you. And thank you, Mark, for all of your hard work getting this book ready. And I'm so excited to have it out in the world. Almost. We're almost there. And I'm just going to read a few poems from this. And I guess I really need to preface it a little bit for you. I write a lot about, this is sort of a memoir in verse, and it's about time stopping as it does when someone is grieving. It's also about memory as a reconstructive process and the threat of memory, and how the past comes back. So in these few poems, you're going to get all of that, right? I'm going to first read the title poem of the collection, Site of Disappearance. The wind is a cop with a deadline. It has one story and you're in the way. Rattling, it sharpens itself between the door and jamb. It can stay all night. Cool shiver, scissors near your ear. Your hair falls. The wind repeats its line of questioning gently now. Look at its softened rock face. Look at its softened rock face. When the world was large, you thought each thing had its God. God of the red grass, God of the river, God of the eye. But there is less and less you can remember. Fingerprints erased from the salt dish, birch trees making scraps of themselves. Try crawling, try reason. The wind has your name, your nape in its mouth and means it. Biography. My brother was born blue and quiet, not unlike the sky, and like the sky he lived exposed. Blueberry mouth, blue eyes, his heart tied in a bow, the river threading his wrist, a slow river, lazy boat, his heartbeat, his echo lived, his name scribbled in my books, his hop step laugh on the loop of our neighborhood trailed me, bugged me, his leg brace, his bracelet warning labels, his sirens, his strokes. He lived, his freckled skin, his surgeons, his open heart, his staples, his scars, his tracks, this sky. He lived for 11 years. He lived, and then. I'm just going to continue. Hopefully you'll read the book and it'll make sense. Inside the story of my brother is the story of the boy buried next to him. Inside the boy, a bicycle he kept shined and a paper route. The route a Sunday morning, streetlights snapping off, and the sound of rubber bands plucked over the folded news. Inside a week, his bicycle against a cyclone fence, wind-torn papers, wavy with sun and weather. Inside that abandonment and exchange, a man rolling down his window, the boy barefoot, resting his bike between his knees. In this sleepy bedroom town, reporters, circle of searchers, a red pin on the map. They found the denim shirt he wore, rope around his wrists. It's hard to believe in endings when there's another and another. Inside the house, his parents were shielded from callers. Parents calling us inside, counting our steps from school. The relentless turning of the clock. Fear carved an icy well inside of them. Some of them fell. Some of them could not get out. The Returned. They've come through the rain with leaves stuck to their shoes, hungry, popping cabinets open and shaking the cereal boxes. They eat the last of everything. They don't wonder if the fish at the bottom of its blue pebbled bowl is asleep or dead. Nothing is dead. Like the insides of teacups, they gleam. Never drowned or hunted, they have no wounds on their bodies. They are where they left off. So how can we explain our constant longing for touch, following and kneeling at doors closed to us, wanting to know what can't be told? Faces pressed to keyholes, each room a diorama, the dressers, combs, and the little shells. And just one more thank you. Thank you for these nice comments. So the reason I started on this book is because, thank you. The reason I started down the road of this book is my own son was turning about 10 or 11, and I started having these things from the past come up. And this poem is called Translation. Down from the ladder of sleep, my son comes, taller than the night before, and I a fraction smaller, allowed a one-armed hug. Next door, an earth mover is chewing up the scenery, its vibration in the cages of my eyes, yet the animals aren't rattled. The knots of his knees disguised in new muscle, he comes down from his loft in solid form and says, "Did you know trees are 90% air?" As if I haven't spent years standing here, holding my breath. Thank you.
Oh, that was such a killer last line. Thank you so much, Erin, for being here, for sharing those poems. And I'm sure I speak for many more people than just myself in the call when I say that we are really looking forward to Site of Disappearance being a holdable thing for those of us across the continent from you. That was Erin Malone, who you can find on Instagram at Erin Malone Poet, ErinMalonePoet. Site of Disappearance comes out from Ornithopter Press on October 1st, and I don't think I'm remiss in saying that it will probably be pre-orderable on September 1st, would be my guess. So set your calendars. It will be a beautiful thing. Lainey's book will be out, and Erin's will be pre-orderable, and life will be very, very good in the fall. Cool. Wow. Again, I have to adjust my pulse in between readers, but that's a good problem. And I'm really excited to welcome another poet and reader who I know is going to take the top of my head off in C.T. Salazar. C.T. Salazar is a Latinx poet and librarian from Mississippi. I am so excited, C.T., that you are here and that you have agreed to read tonight. Take it away.
Thank you. It's such a gift to be considered a friend of Ornithopter. So happy to be here. Yeah, I'm gonna read stuff that is new stuff. And this first poem is not a huzzle, but it is titled Huzzle. Am I the bathtub full of your spring weeds? If you're coming, bring a raincoat. I'm under a wool-white river of clouds, so dense, whatever, where cotton built cathedrals that praise what blood buys. Our river drowns us out like that. Holds me how you hold a cotton mouth in a crosshair. Quiet angel of the river, listen. In the tall grass, the soldiers are surrendering to the applause they owe the countryside and a river of mothers who tend it under someone else's flag. When a senator sells a resource, he means a river. I am being interrogated into unbelievably small ladybugs. Your voice, a radio, a rain shower, a river rushing when the police come with hands for your loved ones. Become a mob in neon shouting. Become a river. under the stars. More light than I can put here, heavier than expected, even so wreath me in it. The river loves the risk. Go past the barn brambles to taste it before they catch your arms moving, moonlit and riverly, like that, like the light that fell against the prison floor while Etheridge wrote his poems. I want to be a river like that, full of the kind of applause it takes to live through a revolution and into another river, heavy heaven that could be called home, where our lives aren't demands we graffiti on the levee wall of the river. In the innards of a clay pot, a soldier's ear unearthed the meadow, a thread, a river, year-long in the humidity. I heard my name came upheaved. Hear that. Silence is a ceasefire across the river. And this is like a short section from a longer poem called Notes from the Confederacy. At the end of my giving up, a horse whose coat smelled like the forest fire it spent the night running through. I am writing this after having learned its name, soft like your sun, the thing hidden in while the silver knife notches against the turtle shell, that noise in my ears when you wash my hair and wring it out of its cursive, foul filtered the light like falling steeples. My beloved is painting a fresh red coat on the old red barn. All the wounds in me open like eyes. No, like flowers, like lake bluest at the bottom. Spring grass against the roadside cross. We'll tear it down, and the barn next to the rain cloud colored prison or school is empty now. Like the afternoons, the bombers practice how quietly they can fly through a country by flying through their own. I watched your imprint in the grass rising long after you got up. Sometimes they even turn the engines off and drift without waking the frigate birds who glide in their sleep. And like every small town, when we dance inside a circle of trucks in a field. Totems the wind and the headlights touch and forget, having no memory like ours. And I think just two more short ones, and I'm done. So this is Sonnet in Place of the Boy Elijah Resurrected. Lay here and April laden, my diesel spilt life, dizzying the sparrows. Be my Samson lambed in the bluebell thicket. Boy lost in the goose down of love, even this denim, Lord, loosen. Listen, I've seen the sun light the Mississippi from inside, the water in my ears, the closest I've come to hearing the voice of God, golden leaves against the fire of their future ash. Ruin too will take a turn. I'll tell you whose teeth are sharper, but I'm wearing this dress out to the party. Here's the pastoral description of my throttled kingdom. It's just our kissed hunger, furnace fed. And this last one is, I guess, like a sister poem to the other one. So this one's called The Boy Elijah Raised Remembers His Last Night Alive. On your temple, my finger, your swirling ram's horn. The sky was transgressing soft. The ideas blue, but bourboning with light. Still, like time, I am most valuable when stolen. Like the time I shared a glass of wine with flies the next day. Holy ghost of a cloud they made. The nights I was a briar patch for your catching. Everyone talked about the future like we're not in it. But I know love by the roadkill it makes of its distractions. I stepped into a gown of moonlight. I thought I knew this town. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, CT, for those phenomenal poems that are blowing up the chat. Not only did they like metaphorically knock me out, they actually at one point knocked me out of the Skype call. Like I disappeared from the call. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? I'm pretty sure I either like leaned on the enter key or God just kicked me out and was like, pay attention, CT is talking. And I'm glad that God did that, because that was CT Salazar, the one, the only, who not only, in addition to being a wonderful writer and reader of poems, is also a wonderful editor. So CT was far too humble to actually ask me to brag about anything on their behalf, but this is a beautiful collection, Mid-South Sonnets, that they just organized with Casey Dodd from Bell Point Press, and it's a beaut. And you'll hear a little bit from it later, but I just wanted to plug that because CT does great work in the editing sphere too, and it's just great that we just are celebrating all kinds of awesome stuff tonight. So, wow. Okay, collecting my breath, slowing the heart rate, and excited to welcome our last formal official friend of Ornithopter to the reading tonight. Also somebody who I'm just very excited to call my friend in poetry, someone whose work I'm phenomenally excited about and have been for a very long time, it feels like, Niesha Trout. Niesha Trout is a multidisciplinary artist and poet living in Los Angeles. So we got a little more West Coast representation here tonight as well. She just completed her first book of poetry. It's a doozy, and it's titled One Sun is Plenty. She is also a survivor and has been a victim's advocate and a whistleblower for the last 6.5 years. Currently, she's studying to be a chronic pain and TMS consultant and working on an art book presented as living sculpture that is centered on ephemera and longing as seen through the lens of transcendence and mania, titled Eternally Yours. Niesha, I'm so glad that you're here and reading with us tonight. I'm thrilled. Do the thing. Oh, but you are muted.
Oh my
And
God,
now,
I'm
now we
sorry.
can hear you do the thing. Take it away.
I'm sorry. I
No.
was saying thank you so much, Tom. That was like the best introduction anyone could ever give me ever. I'm going to take it with me. I'm just going to walk around the world being like, this is what my friend said about me. Um, so I'm going to read some poems from my book, One Sun is Plenty. Some of them are new, and some of them are not so new, but they feel new because I can't stop editing, which is a problem, I think. Also, well, there was something I was going to say. Oh, I'd like to do these with Tom, because I hate reading my poems so much. So I like to force myself to do this because I feel like someday I'm going to find it's going to click and I'm going to enjoy reading my own poems. I just feel like they're so much better when someone can just read them. So Mark, that was a great idea. And I've got to figure out how to make a link so I can line it up because I don't feel like when I'm reading it, it sounds the same at all. So this poem is called Returning. It's kind of about my dad, but I don't know. Returning. In slept-in dreams, the bed like a magnet, I was playing out an alternate life, what cannot be had. The animals sang inward, rain slanting over them, a sky of old blankets. Someone dressed up as the sun told the church of our faces how these stories can only begin in the center. The earth's loyal systems stood in awe of us. Two clear blimps drifted over the ochre day, beyond the grasping hands of doubt, past the heat-raked fields and out, toward the sheerest of sheer blue deaths. Sleek and eyeless, we flew, in concert with one another. We flew through the windy stars. We flew, filling up slowly with the other's waters. Sorry, I'm a little slow here. Let's see. Oh, this poem is called In Heaven Everything. In heaven, everything. He drops red jello in a bowl for me, then pours in milk, and it looks like a crime. Still, he insists. One morning before day camp announces he's making an omelet and pops a battered egg with American cheese in the microwave until it tastes like a hot cadaver. In the shower, no shampoo. He says, wash your hair with soap, it's the same, while he picks out what I'll wear. Buys me a box of lemon heads and a sleeve of Necco wafers from the liquor mart every time, like his dad bought him. Covers my eyes at the sexy parts of R-rated movies. Takes me bumper car driving into Hooters after. Takes me with him on his dates like a verdict. Slightly older, makes me read Ken Kesey against my will. Makes me play chess with him in the Tex-Mex restaurant, my face smeared in shyness. Calls me from work to make sure I'm not in trouble, but I'm in my room with Heather in our glowing 80s swimsuits, blowing kisses to a man thrice our age, who sweats by the pool staring up at us as we wiggle in the window doing bad impressions of grown women. Or when he calls, I'm melting stolen Hershey bars on the balcony, then squeezing them feverishly into my mouth as I hide in the pantry before he gets home. When he does, he returns with a forsaken lady in ill-fitting pants and sends me to bed, makes her leave at 2 a.m., then wakes me to make Sundays and watch David Lynch's Eraserhead. We can't stop laughing at the lady with ice cream scoop hair singing, in heaven, everything is fine. In heaven, everything is fine. You've got your good things and I've got mine. That's about my dad. A lot of my poems are about my dad. Here's a new one. This one's called Lacuna. Lacuna. Under the blind diamond, we watch the day fold over again into halves and halves of auburn completeness. Time measures us against her sharpened rays. Before it can be there, more and more life pours. In the room of daylight, I see a part of the dream from last night, prism before the present moment. Concentrated speech about anything but the point. The walls are motley with photos of the other days. Blooms and gusts of movement. Dishes and drawers of sound. Bodies like lost trees touching. The moon sees what the blindness didn't. Almost an empty feeling if you're done. I'm just going to read a couple more. Am I going too long? Is that too long? Okay. This poem is called Ritual. It's about my mom. Ritual. I once saw a lake and gave it all the fog it needed to be true. There is always honest work to be done in mirrors. I tell my body what to do, and when it's good, the flesh drops on the air like an essence, blessing the moment, letting the light streak in sugary fractals over the room. This is the daily surgery. Butcher your castle of health, drown your doubt sapphires. My glamorous mother was so lithe in her Diane Freeze dresses, floating away from me like a nightclub flower garden. Or in the kitchen, eating cold, grainy cubes of halva, calling me over to open my mouth, she'd place one in and close me back up like a little oven door. In my heart's eye, I was resolved to be a goddess of this strain too. As soon as the puberty blubbers melted into sweet globes off my skin, I would be loved by her and anyone else so decadently, and wherever their love was hiding, I would find out. And like a good fiend, I would hoard it, ration it out, strand by strand, placing it where I once was, a scythe of a woman cutting back everything in her jade eye. Okay, I'll just read one more. This one is called How to Fly. How to Fly. A song in reverse but slower. The notes pitched ink tilting figurines against pillows, drift up. Am I without them? In a delirious mechanism of beauty? Are the waters leaking from my face part of an irrigated garden, forever imperceptible to me? Periodic dot on the plain? Cream rose blue lips of the world? On a rigatoni ventricle of the heart, sucking out all the claret jelly beneath a lake of white sky? Take me with you, undertow, where I belong. Take me all the way down. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Niesha, for those poems and just for being here. It is such a pleasure to hear you read always, and I'm so glad you could be here. Yeah, this is so beautiful. That was Niesha Trout, who you can find on Twitter at Niesha Trout, which is NIESHATROUT, and in two places on Instagram, Niesha_Trout for some visual art, and Joe_Pesci_in_Paris for poetry and other things. So please keep an eye out. Nisha's book, One Sun is Plenty, is going to make waves when it arrives, and I'm very confident that it will, and I'm looking forward to it tremendously. Well, it's always a little bit sad to get to our last reader of the evening, but it's a little bit more fun when it's me and I can do whatever I want. So I can just kind of like carte blanche it a little bit. So that's very fun. I am looking forward to what I will read. And I would have, if I had been very prepared, asked someone else to read my bio, but instead I'm just going to read this one from the back of this beautifully designed book from Ornithopter Press called Reclaimed Water. So on the very last page-ish, it says about the author. Tom Snarsky is the author of the chapbooks Threshold from Another New Calligraphy and Complete Sentences from Broken Sleep, as well as the full-length collection Light Up Swan from Ornithopter Press. He lives with his wife Christy and their cats in the mountains of northwestern Virginia. And speaking of his wife Christy, the first poem I'm going to read is called Song of Restoration, and Mark's idea was so good that I borrowed it. So here in the chat for live people, and then in the video description for non-live people, are the poems that I'll read in case you want to follow along. No pressure, though. This first poem is called Song of Restoration for Christy. And it's for Christy in absentia because right now Christy is at band camp teaching students percussion because they are getting ready for the marching band season. So to all the music teachers or any kind of teachers out there, thank you for everything. Song of Restoration for Christy. In the Chandelier Hospital, I've been sleeping on a little cot, attending the mysteries of healing. You are still dazzling, but in fragments. Everywhere a hint of a hole. September is saying its long goodbye as ants march up the juice box. Most planets are probably so much quieter than ours. You are sleeping. I am looking at your face and seeing it as night's greatest gift, the slack that, with diamonds or glass, throws light all over the room. I replaced a light bulb in this very fan right before this reading started, so literally throwing light all over the room. I like that, night light. The next poem I'm going to read is right in the middle. It's called What Can and Cannot Pass Through the Green Glass Door. Has anyone ever been like a camp counselor or like worked with children in a summary setting? If you have, you might know this game. So the game is what can pass through the green glass door, and people propose things and they say, can they pass through the green glass door? So for example, I didn't think about this, I should have thought about this, but like August can't pass through the green glass door, unfortunately. But let's see. Ornithopter can't pass through the green glass door either, but Mark Harris can pass through the green glass door. So as you're reading this poem, maybe you'll figure out what can pass through the green glass door and what cannot. So what can and cannot pass through the green glass door? Yeah, Anne and Kirby know that's this game. Great. Anne can pass through the green glass door. I just thought of that. A happy person, but not a sad person. Grass, but not flowers. A flotilla of ships, but not an army. Bullets, but not a gun. A needle, but not its syringe. Sadness, but not death. Parallel lines, but not perpendicular. A sunny day, but not a rainy one. Floors, but not ceilings. Rotten fruit, but not fresh. Pebbles, but not the sand. The Gospel of Matthew, but not the Gospel of John. The Book of Revelations, but not the Song of Songs. A cello, but not a violin. Olivier Messiaen, but not his birds. An occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, but not the red badge of courage. All dogs go to heaven, but not Oliver and Company. Corruption, but not the void. Errors in judgment, but not honest mistakes. The shape of a bell, but not the shape of a heart. A glimmer, but not a glint. Cookie cutters, but not brownie pans. A scintilla of hope, but not despair. Running, but not walking. Haley Theoharides is Into the Leaf Gloom, but not Ben Mirov's A Few Ideas from My Black Box. Manna, but not bread. Gluttony, but not sloth. Songs of innocence, but not songs of experience. The middle, but not the end. Hemming, but not hawing. A good feeling, but not a bad idea. Tissue paper, but not the gift bag it came in. A tattoo, but not a story. Beer, but not wine. Addiction, but not alcoholism. Repression, but not love. Clinical depression, but not clinical anxiety. Green eggs, but not ham. Nikki Grace, but not Laura Dern. Nikki Walschlager, but not Natalie Shapiro. Mulholland Drive, but not Inland Empire. A channel, but not the sea. Bugaboo Creek, but not the ground round. Braintree, but not Plymouth. My immediate family, but not my extended family. A wedding reception, but not its venue. A happening, but not an event. Stravinsky's Le Rossignol, but not Stravinsky's Le Sac du Printemps. Yellow gold, but not rose gold. Fool's gold, but not the real thing. A professor, but not a teacher. Disappointment, but not pride. A lily of the valley, but not a regular lily. Plainness, but not ostentation. Renaissance, but not Baroque. Camille Rankin, but not Claudia Rankin. Maymay Bersenbrugge, but not, why not, Wanda Coleman. County Cullen, but not Langston Hughes. Lucille Clifton, but not Hua Win. Will Alexander, but not W.H. Auden. A Villanelle, but not a Sestina. Ted Berrigan, but not the poem itself. John Berryman, but not the wind. Sappho, but not the lyre. Inanna, but not Ariana Rines. Eternal Recurrence, but not the neutrality of being. Gilles Deleuze, but not Spinoza. Félix Guattari, but not Jacques Lacan. Sibylla Bayer, but not Jackson C. Frank. Kennings, but not epithets. The Green Knight, but not Sir Gawain. Goosebumps, but not Animorphs. K.A. Applegate, but not R.L. Stein. Francois Villon, but not the rest of traditional French verse. The Moon, but not the spirit of the thief. The city streets, but not the city lights. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, but not poetry. A big umbrella, but not the precipitation that protects you from withheld reasons, but not invented names. Coffee, but not tea. A hidden landscape, but not the early work of John Ashbery. Some trees, but not Turandot and other poems. Noel Cocott, but not Damon Tomblin. Forgotten, but not gone. Settings, but not preferences. Choose your own adventure, but not science fiction. Omid, but not Daniel or the others. James Turrell, but not the light. Blood, but not anything real. High school, but not kindergarten. Scott, but not Kyle. A little lingering doubt, but not meat consumption. The will to live, but not cute plants. The beginning, but not a warm shadow of wherever we are now. Goodbye, but not forever. That was sweaty. Yeah. Okay. The next poem is also the next poem in the book. and it is called Acts of Despair. And when I say it out loud, I realize it sounds like ACTS of despair, but it's actually Acts of Despair, the Yu-Gi-Oh card. Very important distinction. Acts of Despair. Assetlessly I fall afraid of summer, its moonbeams oddly hot. There is a tomorrow here someplace, full of vellum and late apologies, like all your best secrets. The way the in reveal walks the knife's edge of again and reversal, to veil once more, to take the veil off. I caught my love for you in a butterfly jar. No holes. The air still finding its way out, slowly, slowly. I'm going to read one more poem from the middle of the book. It's pretty short, but before the next poem, there's a second epigraph right in the middle of the book, and it has a nice chime with Mark's poem Division. And Mark's poem Division said, "In the lot behind our homes, his son asks shyly if I can help him split a geode." And this epigraph from George Oppen reads, "Behind their house, behind the back porch, are the little woods." This is a little poem called Apples, Jug, Iridescent Glass, named after a painting. Its jaw broken, fall rehearses a troubled speech of leaves under cold rain. Ice is, as yet, a promise, one you wouldn't hold anyone to. And this book has worked very hard, so I'm going to read one that is also in this book, but is also collected in CT's beautifully edited Mid-South Sonnets, which is an absolutely phenomenal anthology that has bowled me over just about as many times as I have turned the page reading it. And this poem is from Reclaimed Water, but also findable in this beautiful collection, and it's called Feelin' Fine. Feelin' Fine. On the day the canned tarantula expires, arguably for the second time, a meadow enters a poem as a transitional image, while short eyes, like kindergartners, line up to go outside. The algorithm is winning because it is bringing you what you like. The Matrix starring a sun-dried tomato, a best-selling book made of worms, etc. There's a fever garden where you can forgive anyone for anything, and the bodies piling up in it are feeling fine. The dynamic rating system they use to give feedback has been hovering around a 4.2 out of 5 for years. Mostly agreeable, with a few curmudgeons. Well, it is an incredibly sad moment to get to the end of a reading. I have one more poem that I want to read to you, but before I do, I want to just say thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their beautiful work with us this evening. It was a joy to celebrate with Ornithopter and Friends, and we hope that none of you will be strangers in the future, that you'll keep in touch whether you read here today or are listening live or on the video. We would love to hear from you, and we are excited to keep this series going and celebrating great work that is happening by cool people. Please also, thank you to our listeners who are here giving this hour of their lives over to poetry. We hope if you are listening with a sheaf of new poems close at hand, you might consider dropping us a line at Nightlight Poems on Twitter, at night_light_poems_ on Instagram, or poetrybooksontape@gmail.com. I personally would love to hear from you if you'd like to share your work at a future event. And we already have some lovely people signed up for September 21st, the third Thursday in September. So it's going to be a beautiful time. I'm excited to kind of kickstart things again. And just to close things, I always like to close these sorts of things on a poem. So I'm just going to read you the very last poem in Reclaimed Water. It's called Originated. And thank you all so much for originating Nightlight with me tonight. Originated. Sometimes you think of these little stories, would make sense of why you were down there so long, getting a roll of paper towels, one hand in the internet and one hand accessory to nervous autophagy you'll feel in the quick tomorrow while you're trying to scrape some last burnt bit off the bottom of a rounded pan. Can't corner it, scratching up the sink. And just this small shard of old food slips under and in like an injection on 2 instead of 3, which if you remembered your hangman's paradox, you should have expected. He's coming on Tuesday, you said, with the conviction of not really thinking long enough to understand. And quickly, you forget. Under porch light, the apple's fist of water cut into pieces for the possums.